Cage Thunder Fight fans. My name is Jake Digman, and I am honored to be joined right now by a fighter who will be competing on the upcoming Cage Thunder 32 event on Saturday, June 7th. He will be taking on James the Merc Pfeiffer. I am being joined by the undefeated Mad Max Metzgar. Max Metzgar, it was a little bit of timing to get our schedules worked out, but we got it all set up and ready to go. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, brother. Yeah, I'm glad we were able to make it happen. Um, yeah,
No, I'm same here. I'm glad to get the opportunity to sit down and talk with you here today. Um, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is, we'll just kind of start from the beginning. You are originally from Chicago, Illinois, correct?
yeah, that's right. Yep.
And how long did you live in Chicago?
I was born in Chicago and lived there all my life until I came out here to go to college. Went to Ohio State, graduated from Ohio State, moved back briefly to Chicago. Looked for was looking for jobs, wasn't able to find what I was looking for. Moved back um, with the goal of being a pro MMA fighter. So I was in Chicago my whole life from when I was born until when you start college about 18 years old, and then I've been here since I was 18, so about a decade now.
So, did when did you discover mixed martial arts? Was it back home in Chicago originally, or was it after you had gone to Columbus?
Yeah, I guess it depends what you define as mixed martial arts, right? I wrestled my entire life. I think a lot of people don't consider wrestling a martial art, but it certainly fits the profile. I probably would say that wrestling is a martial art. I wrestled my entire life for Oak Park River Forest High School. We were three-time state champions while I was there. We were the first team in Illinois history to be national champs. But in terms of actually, doing boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, that was all, in Columbus. Yeah, that was all later in my life when I was in Columbus. I took a boxing class when I was in college as like a GE. Um, really enjoyed it. Never thought that I was gonna, try to be a pro fighter, but um, I was getting into a little bit of trouble running around with the crew that I was running around with, and there was one instance where I ended up getting into a fight with a bunch of dudes, and it was me versus four, five, six other dudes, and obviously I lost the fight, and after that I wanted to, you know, I this is gonna sound kind of crude, but I wanted to learn how to kick somebody in the head. I was like, if I can learn how to kick somebody in the head standing up, um, as long as the pants that I'm wearing allow it while I'm out on the scene, then that should never happen to me again. So that's actually, what got me in the door with Muay Thai at Ronin Training Center.
That's that's uh that's that's a wild story right there. I actually many years ago I used to host a radio show when one of my co-host was a former MMA fighter by the name of John Sturmack, who used to be around this Ohio scene, and his was kind of like he was driving home one day and there was someone that made him feel intimidated, so he went to like the police station and then he vowed to himself that he would never feel that intimidation again. So he started into MMA. It's just really
Yeah,
interesting how some guys end up
yeah,
where they were at. I want to touch on a thing you just
yeah.
said a minute ago, Max. You were talking about you didn't know if wrestling was really a martial art. It is. Wrestling is the predominant base, I believe, for mixed martial arts. I
Oh
mean, you
yeah,
can tell the guys who have it, you guys with the wrestling background, especially, come in with a lot
absolutely.
more discipline. So you are no stranger with a wrestling background. Then you are no
Yeah,
stranger to cutting weight your entire life. Then.
yeah, yeah. Obviously, when I was a young kid, didn't really cut a lot of weight. Wasn't, I think I was in the eighth grade when I first, wanted to start cutting weight when I was, started winning tournaments and started looking to compete at the national level. And I wanted to cut weight. My mom and my dad were like, "What is cutting weight?" Like, you're not cutting weight. Um, And funny enough, actually, my senior year, I always tell people I ended up wrestling up, one or two weight classes. I wrestled at 182 pounds my senior year, even though I weighed like 169 or like 171 pounds because that was the only way I could crack the starting lineup for the number one team in the nation, which was Oak Park, which is where I went to high school. Kamal Bay, I always say, he's people that don't know, he's an Olympian right now. He's a year younger than me, but he was our starting 170 pounder. Our starting 160 pounder was a two-time state finalist, Matt Rundell, who went on to wrestle at North Carolina. So I had to, try to wrestle up my senior year, so I didn't have to cut any weight then, but yeah, definitely no stranger to the culture of one-on-one competition. And putting your hands on somebody. Been doing that a long time.
Now, when you first started competing in mixed martial arts, did you find that it came to you, like the sport itself came to you rather easily, or is it because of your wrestling background, or was it something that you had to more adapt to?
Um, to say that it came easily to me would be kind of inaccurate. I think I always really, I tell people when I started like really training, like I told you I moved back to Chicago after I graduated from Ohio State. I was looking for jobs. I was doing all these odd jobs that, were just paying the bills that I was really not having. I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And I decided that I was going to try to be the best MMA fighter that I could possibly be. Try to be a world champion MMA fighter and make a living doing this. Um, Having that level of commitment and certainty in the direction that I was headed, um, made it easy because, I feel like a lot of people weren't, they were kind of dipping their toe in it and because it's such a crazy thing to try to pursue, you know what I mean? It's a scary thing to try to pour every ounce of yourself into and say there is no plan B. This is what I'm doing. Um, so anytime that I fought anybody that, and anytime you fight somebody who's not all in and you're all in, it's gonna feel like it's you know, easy per se. You know what I mean? I know no fight is easy, obviously, but um, the reason I had so much success early on, and the reason I continue to have a lot of success, is because of the wrestling background, particularly the Greco-Roman wrestling. I think that's what a lot of people don't, excel in wrestling in MMA is the upper body clinching. Especially against the cage. That Greco-Roman style of wrestling is really dominant. But I also think something comes easy to you when you love it. And I've always really, really enjoyed the puzzle of martial arts and the art of fighting, of moving your body in a rhythmic, calculated way and losing yourself in the flow of a fight. You know what I mean? That's something that always I really just I have this passion for martial arts, and that's why, you know what I mean? I think something is easy per se whenever you love it, you know.
No, I know what you mean. That you have a passion for something. What's the old saying? If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. It's
Right, right.
something very much akin to that. You mentioned what you were discussing there. The start of your career. When you began your career, you were fight as an amateur at 155, and then you moved up to 170, and now you're going back down this next fight upcoming at 155. Why
That's right.
now to make that transition back down to the lightweight weight class? What made now the time for you to do that?
There's a lot of factors that played into it. When I was fighting at 155 as an amateur, I was a lot smaller. Um, you know, I wasn't I didn't have like a legitimate strength and conditioning coach, and I wasn't lifting weights in a periodized, systematic way by myself. I would, lift every once in a while and just kind of was doing my own bro science bullshit. I've had a, top tier strength and conditioning coach for probably going on almost 3 years now. Dylan Seeley, with Inferno Performance and Rehab. He's one of the best strength and conditioning coaches in the world. There's no doubt in my mind about it, at least. But working with him obviously put a lot of muscle on my frame. I also think just naturally the way that I grew into my frame a little bit. So I ended up getting a lot bigger, which made it easier to fight at 170. But also, you may or may not know this, but I was signed to Bellator as an amateur. I was supposed to make my professional debut with Bellator, and I signed with them. They had all kinds of things going on in the business world. They were acquired by PFL. PFL wasn't sure if they were going to honor the contract. I kept getting mixed signals, staying in touch with the staff from Bellator's front office, but I was on the shelf for 16 or 18 months, waiting to make my pro debut. So once I finally realized in my own head, I can't keep sitting around fucking waiting for this to happen. You know what I mean? I gotta go. I gotta go now. Um, it was a lot easier to bang out a lot of fights at 170 without having to worry about the weight cut and then everything that goes into going up and going down in weight is makes it harder for me to compete at 155 on a regular basis. This will be my fifth fight in 13 months. So I was able to bang out a bunch of fights at 170 where I only have to cut, for like 10 days or 2 weeks to make that fight happen. But now that we're getting to the level where I'm going to be looking to make that run here pretty soon, 5-0. After this, I'd like to fight for the Cage Thunder belt, grab the Ohio Combat League belt, and then look to LFA, fight for LFA once or twice, win the LFA world title, and then, God willing, everything goes my way, get that shot on Dana White's Contender Series or get signed to the UFC, just outright.
Well, you definitely have your head in the right place. You got a long term goal, and I like to see that. With guys in this sport, you know what you want to do, and you've got a great head on your shoulders, and you've got a good aura about you, and especially for something that what I mean by that is like you look at the guys that succeed at the level of the UFC are the guys that have an aura about them, and you definitely carry yourself with an aura about you in a very positive and a good way, and you're a great representative of Ohio mixed martial arts, Max.
I
Um,
appreciate that, man. Thank you. I just try to be myself, man. I try not to be arrogant, try not to be cocky, but I've been all in on this. I am all in on this, and I'm gonna continue to, believe that I'm taking it. I believe that I'm taking it there because that's where I'm going. You know what I mean? And that's just it for me.
Well, the next step on your journey is going to be next Saturday, June 7th, at the Canton Civic Center. You are taking on James the Merc Pfeiffer. He is. You were at one point. I don't know if they've updated him. You were ranked number 3 at welterweight in Ohio. He was ranked number 3 at lightweight in Ohio, making that drop down to back down to the lightweight division. First time for you as a pro. Did you want someone who was in the top ranking just to show who you are and where what you bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care. These regional rankings are all shenanigans. You know what I mean? Until you get into the UFC, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? I know who I am. I'm gonna keep finishing people, and you know, people will see who I am. It doesn't really matter who they put in front of me. Um, obviously, you keep getting wins, and at a certain point, you're only able to get fights against guys that have good records. I think he's 5-2, which is obviously a respectable record. But yeah, I mean, I'm here looking to test myself against um, high level competition. You know what I mean? That's what this is all about. I love competing against people that are fighters, that are all in on this, that are truly trying to master the art of fighting. And I'm not sure if James Pfeiffer is that guy, but he's the guy that's going to be in front of me next Saturday. So he's going to find out.
I'm looking forward to seeing this one go down. again, I just want to reiterate how much I like where your head is at because there's so many guys out there that, they just want to get the fight that can get them the win and, to quote unquote get to that level. Yet you're not one of those guys because you realize now that, when you get to that level, you're going to face stiff competition. So you facing stiff competition now is what gets you ready to be on that level. And I just wish more people kind of saw that and realized that, the only ways you get better is to, better yourself against better competition.
Yeah, that's why I called out Hunter Watt. You know what I mean? When in my last fight for Cage Thunder, I fought Hunter Watt, and he was, regarded as the one of the best guys in Ohio at 170. And I called him out. I wanted that fight because you know what I mean. If you can't beat these guys on the regional scene, then you're not getting to the UFC. You know what I mean? That's just the obviously the simple nature of the beast. If you can't beat the best guys in your region, in your state, then you're not going to the UFC anyway. So you might as well try to fight those guys now and see where you stand. Obviously from a business perspective versus from a competitor wanting to test yourself, that's where things kind of get a little bit gray, and that's why fighters need managers because you know what I mean. Just from the perspective of a business, you want to take the smart fight at the right time to continue to grow in in an intelligent way. You don't want to go from fighting a local guy to fighting a fucking UFC top 15 guy. Obviously, that wouldn't happen, but you know what I mean. So that's kind of where I think a lot of people's heads are at, and I certainly understand that. You know what I mean, and that's certainly, my first two fights. I was able to, after being out for 18 months, I was able to fight two guys kind of like that. You know what I mean, two guys that, aren't really high level MMA fighters, but you get those out of the way, get the cobwebs off, and then it's back to trying to fight killers.
Yeah, you mentioned the importance of having a good manager. It's all part of the whole total package as a successful professional fighter, from management to your coaches to your team around you to a good nutritionist to
Exactly,
everybody. And I
bro.
and I, I know
100%.
and I know you got a great team around you right now. Is there anybody out there, Max, that you would like to thank that has helped you get prepared for this fight?
I really do. I know that I have a world class team, man. You know what I mean? My MMA coach, Josh Williams at Ronin Training Center, my Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coach, Vitor Oliveira at Ronin Training Center. 5-time world champion. I've been getting 2 to 3 sessions in with Matt Brown, one on one. Hitting pads, sparring, going through the clinch. Which has been an absolute game changer for me. I've been doing that for about this is my second camp I've been with Matt. I was just with him earlier today, but I mean, that's moved the needle in a way that is, absolutely tremendous. Doing one-on-ones with Matt has been tremendous. And like I said, in the trenches every day, doing strength and conditioning with my guy Dylan Seeley, Sean Carew, with Wellness Flow, located in Columbus, doing strength and conditioning stuff with him and the supplementation and Jeb Stewart is my nutritionist this camp. Ryan Dickey, my boxing coach. Um, I really do have a world class team around me, and I'm super grateful for all those guys. You know what I mean? Obviously, when you're in the beginning stages of your professional career, you're not really able to pay people what they're worth. So anybody that sticks out with you during this time, it's because they see your potential and because they got love for you and they want to see you make it. So I'm extremely grateful for all of them, and I really am grateful that God brought those people into my life because I know that I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in without them.
Bravo to that, sir. Um, switching gears a little bit, I got a couple more questions for you. This one
Yeah,
is
yeah.
always one of my favorite questions to ask guys. What is one fact about Mad Max Metzger that would surprise fight fans to know?
What is one fact about Mad Max Metzger that would surprise fight fans to know? I still wet the bed. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't know, man. I don't know. Um, I don't know. I think a lot of people think of us as just fucking meatheads. I really enjoy cooking. I like listening to slow classical music while I train a lot of the time. I used to make music. Um, I don't know. I don't know. What would be something that would be really surprising? I'm not sure. You know what I mean? That I'm a well-rounded person. I don't know.
It's always interesting to me because guys usually think that like the misconception is that guys think like fans or whoever are listening think guys are meatheads or whatever. But
Yeah.
everybody I've talked to is like an intelligent person that has like a
Yeah.
college degree or whatever
Right. Right.
happens to be. And just like,
Yeah. Exactly.
I always just find it an interesting question for me to ask just because I
Yeah.
always want to
Yeah.
know personally. And it's always like, there are people think I walk down like the grocery store aisle announcing people. It's one of those like because whatever they see you as, that's just what they picture you to be. And I always just
Right.
find it interesting, to find out a little bit more of the human side
Yeah.
of people.
For sure. For
Um,
sure.
Switching back into fight mode though, what can Cage Thunder fans expect come June 7th?
I think this is going to be an exciting fight. Everything that I've seen from this dude is that he wants to come forward, doesn't really seem to want or have an ability to fight off of his back foot, moving backwards. He's just pressure forward the entire fight. So, that mixed with my style, I think is going to make for a exciting, explosive fight. I think that the fight will probably be over pretty early. You know what I mean? I think that he's going to run into something hard for me, whether it's a knee, whether it's a right hand, whether it's an elbow or a kick. Um, I just think that I'm better everywhere. The better grappler, better striker, better jujitsu, better fight IQ, better cage grappling. And I just don't see any way that I don't get him out of there pretty early. So I think that the Cage Thunder fans they're in for a treat. You know what I mean? Anytime you get to see me in there, there's always going to be some cool shit happening, and it's never going to be me laying on top of somebody trying to wrestle them and hold them down. Every time I get in there, I need the finish. You know what I mean? I've had 3 fights in my career of 12 fights that went the distance. And every time I have a fight that goes the distance, I just leave feeling so discontent. I've never lost an MMA fight, but every time I have to go back home on the drive and I didn't get the finish, I feel this fucking taste in my mouth. It's like I just didn't get the job done. So, in my last fight going into the third round, my coaches were telling me, just take him down. You're up 2 rounds. And right before I knocked him out in the third round, I remember thinking like, Dana White's not paying anybody to fucking lay on people. You know what I mean? Like I've had fights where, as an amateur, where I took somebody down and I was, hesitant to pass position, hesitant to take the risk to posture up and flow into the next spot because I might lose control of the grappling. And that's a slow death in this sport. Having a career where you're boring and you're not getting finishes and you're not putting on exciting fights is a slow death to not make it to the big show. So anytime I'm in there, I'm trying to get the finish and I'm always gonna do some cool shit. I got so many bags in so many tricks in my bag from different suplexes, different spinning kicks, flying knees. Yeah, anytime you watch me fight, I like to think that you're in for a treat.
It's definitely worth the price of admission to watch you compete, my friend. I am looking forward to this one. This whole show, top to bottom, is absolutely
Yeah,
loaded and stacked. It's going to be great.
yeah.
You almost want to be like, I'll go on first just so you can watch the rest of the show. But
And I'll tell you something else, man. I told Case Thunder not to stick me in the same dressing room as Dusty Schaefer because I got beef with that dude. I don't know if you were there at the last Case Thunder fight. I'm sure you were, but after he called my boy Mark Antonelli, man. I think the fight might have been 1-1 going into the third. I think Mark was winning the third round until he got caught in a submission. But he's one of those dudes that wants to lay on the ground and do all this submission grappling and doesn't want to make it a real fight. He wants to freaking put his head underneath your crotch and try to choke you with his legs or you know what I mean? And I understand, I do jujitsu, I get it, but um I got beef with that dude, man. After this fight, after I finished James Pfeiffer, Dusty Schaefer wants to stand in the middle of the octagon and show me and throw me the double fingers and tell me fuck you and be Mr. Macho. Let's see if he stands on it. After this fight, I'm calling him out. See if he's man enough to come up a weight class. I'm not here dominating two weight classes. You want to act like the man and act like the top dog. Let's see if you're really about it. So I'm calling him out now, and I'm gonna call him out again on the mic after I beat this dude. So that's what's next.
Ooh,
That's some
it's
that's
gonna
some
make
exciting shit right there. Yeah.
it's gonna make for a fun night.
Yeah,
It's gonna
he's
make
not
for a
gonna
fun
take it
night.
though. He's not gonna take it. But yeah, man. That's I'm just planting that seed right now. But he won't take that fight. They know better than that.
Well, that's one I would absolutely love to see again, as the fan in me would love to see that. Max, how do fans out there, how do they follow you on the socials and to support you?
Yep. I'm really only active on Instagram. I don't use Twitter. Don't use anything else like that. But it's just Mad Max Metzger, man. I was lucky to be able to grab that name. Nobody else had it, so just Mad Max Metzger, man. That's me.
Well, Mad Max Metzger, I thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule training, getting ready for this big upcoming fight. It is Saturday, June 7th at the Canton Civic Center in Canton, Ohio. Mad Max Metzger in the co-main event will be taking on James the Merc Pfeiffer. It is a professional bout in the lightweight division. Looking forward to seeing it happening. If you like the interview here, you can pick up your tickets at go visit CageThunderMMA.com. That is CageThunderMMA.com. Click on the Get Tickets link for Cage Thunder 32. And if you like what you heard here, go up there, click the unlock button, and throw in
Yeah,
Max. I believe it's your last name, Metzger.
that's right.
You
Yep.
throw in Max's last name in the code up there to support Mad Max Metzger. And
Yeah.
Max, I will see you on June 6th for the weigh-ins, and then I'll see you in the cage on Saturday, June 7th. Looking forward to it, sir.
Yes, sir. Jake, thank you for your time, man. Thanks for hopping on here with me, and I'll see you out there June 6th, man. Thank you again.